Hello F11 members and welcome back to the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 41, June 2015. So, we've just been in part 1 looking at using Lightroom to stitch together images for a panorama, a new capability introduced with Lightroom 6 and Lightroom CC. I think quite a handy development, very handy in fact. Last month we looked at photo merging, and I think we'll look at it again with a different situation, a different set of pictures here. So I'm looking at a shoot from Corfe Castle back in last November during the Jurassic Coast Capture to Print workshop, and a pretty epic set of lighting circumstances. If I show you this image here, there you go. And what I want to do is take these 3 frames here, one exposed for the shadows, one exposed for the midtones, and one exposed for the highlights, and use photo merging to put them together, see what we get. And I should stress, I've not done this set before, I'm working in real time, so let's see how it works out. I'm going to just select the 3 pictures here, comme ça, and then go up here to photo and photo merge and merge to HDR. And now it asks me about how I want to do that HDR preview. I have here the deghost amount set to medium because there are clouds drifting through the frame and there might be a little bit of movement between each frame, so what I want Lightroom to do is to try and deghost that movement. Okay, so that's the status bar as it works on the image, and there's the preview, and as most of the previews seem to look, it comes out, as it were, looking pretty bright and quite flat, but the crucial thing is all the information is there. So I'm now going to hit merge and see how the actual merged image looks. And again, the status bar up here tells us how it's getting on. We're merging 3 images here, so it shouldn't be too much hard work for it. So it's just told me it's done the HDR, and if I come along here to the bottom, there it is. Let's have a look at it. And I'm going to open it up in the develop module and take it from there. Okay, so the question is, what do I want to do with this image? First, as with any other image, I'm going to look at the black and the white points, and the black point is considerably way off. If I move it to the left there, it ensures that the darkest tone is a true black. Just hold down the Alt key until I see clipping start to take place, come back a bit, and that's where it needs to be. Okay, generally speaking, I think the tonal qualities, the brightness is right in this kind of part of the image, but the sky's still quite a bit bright. I'm actually going to use the tone curve here just to pull it down a touch. How far to give it a bit of impact there. It's looking pretty good, really. The sky's quite bright. I'm going to use the grad tool to hold that back a bit, I think. So I'm going to come up here to the grad tool here and just make sure that the grad, in fact I'm going to escape from there. Click on that and click delete, it gets rid of that grad. Just want to show you something here. If I hold the shift key down as I make a grad filter, well, helps if I have the grad filter tool active. Now if I hold down the shift key and pull a grad down, it ensures that the gradation is level. Okay, where do we want it to start and finish is of course the big question. I'm going to experiment with this. We can always fine tune it later. Pull back the exposure, quite a bit. If I go too far, sky looks well dramatic but starts to look unreal. So I'm going to come back a touch till I get a sort of believable density to that sky there. And I'm also going to pull back the highlights just in the gradated part of the image. And that really has done a very good job that I'm really quite pleased with. Just going to make sure the grad's a bit softer there. And really, that's really made the sky a feature in the image. So now I click on Done. I think the grad tool in Lightroom is a very, very useful tool, and it's a much better tool than exists in Photoshop, by the way. Okay, generally speaking with this image, I'd say I'm fairly happy with that. I'm going to add a touch of vibrance to the image, around about 12 I think there. I'm going to sharpen it as always using the Lightroom preset, Sharpen Scenic, and I come down to masking, hold down the Alt key and slide my masking slider to the right until the black, which indicates where the mask is being applied, is on, affecting the sky predominantly and the misty areas, the areas of the image where there is no discernible detail. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So at this stage, what I want to do, I think, really is just remove some of these irritating twigs and stuff in the just intruding in the bottom of the frame there. But generally speaking, apart from that, the image is pretty much done, which again shows that this new photo merge capability in Lightroom does look impressive. I just zoom into different parts of the image just to check there's no ghosting in the clouds. Doesn't appear to be. So if there were a lot of movement between individual frames that are merging, it would of course give Lightroom a lot of problems, and you would start to see strange edges appearing. What we've got actually, it's quite interesting here, is can you see these little white things here? That's where sheep are moving, I believe, but that's okay, that's real, I'll live with that. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out and I'm now going to edit the photo in I'm going to export and open it up in Photoshop. So I'm going to pause now and I'll see you in Photoshop. So welcome back, and here we are in Photoshop with the image opened up, and what I'm going to do now is just selectively take this area of the image, the misty bit on the right, and just add a little bit of contrast to that particular image. Before I do that, I'm just going to go layer and add a duplicate layer of the background copy, just so that any imaging and adjustments that I make are being applied to a layer rather than to the master image, as it were, just in case I want to go back or throw away it all, and I've not practiced destructive editing that way. And so if I bring my layers palette in here, you can see there I have the background copy on top of the background, and they're identical at the moment, but not for long, because I'm going to make a selection now. And if I bring in my tools palette here, I'm just going to use the Lasso tool here and make a selection. Oh, helps if you do it right. I'm going to make a selection pretty much following the brightest part of the mist here, and just come round like that. Okay, just pause to consider what I'm doing here. So I'm going to use the technique of layer masking here, because that allows me to fine-tune the edge of this selection should I want to, very easily. So the first thing I do is go to Layer and Layer Mask, and it says Reveal the Selection, and if I click on that, Now what you see here then, I forgot to feather it, so I'm just going to go back in my history mode. I told you I'm doing this in real time, so there you go back to Lasso. Now what I want to do is feather the selection, so I go select and modify and feather, and I'm going to put in a pretty soft feather radius of 250 pixels there and click on that. Now if I go layer mask, reveal selection, what we have now is on the top layer, the background copy, we have a mask applied where the black is. Can you see here? So that adjustments I now make will only affect the bit that is white, which happens to be the bit I selected, which happens to be the misty bit. Let's just move those out of the way now. So if I go image adjustments curves here, what I'm going to do is just add a bit of contrast to this tone curve, which will affect only the layer, the misty layer bit. So I'm going to put an S in there, and if I click on and off there, just pause 1 second. Why is it not doing anything visibly as I click on and preview on and off? Again, it's because I've made a cock up. It's all part of the learning process. I'm going to cancel that. What I've done is I've selected the layer mask, not the actual layer. So if I make sure that that is highlighted as opposed to the mask, now the number of times I've done that, it drives you mad. You can't work out why anything's not why nothing's happening, you know. Okay, now if I look, I've got the tone curve and the histogram for just that area of the image. So I'm going to select my white points and just move my white points until I start to see some clipping in that area appear. Same with the black points, and fairly soon I start to see a bit of clipping here, over here. Do you see in the tower? Nevertheless, can you see there? I've been able to pull the black point in a touch, and that will have an effect. If I click the preview on and off, it's subtle, but it's there. And I'm actually going to alter the tone curve shape now by actually putting a bit of an S in there as well. Click down on and off, and you can see it really has had an effect on that area of the image, giving it contrast, giving it a touch more impact. It's these kind of subtle adjustments that really make all the difference. Now if I just click on and off my adjustment layer, you can see it's a real minor thing, but we're always striving for perfection here. Can you see it's actually darkening down the top of the tower just a touch? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the layer mask here, and I'm now going to, let's just get this out of the way for the moment. I'm now going to select the brush tool, and if you look down here, the white is on top of the black. What I want to do is just push back the edge of that selection a bit, as it were, by fine-tuning the selection of the mask here. So I want to paint in black. So if I hit the X button on my keyboard, you can see the black is on top of the white. Now with an opacity of, just pull it back up here, back to about 15% here, and with the brackets key make the actual brush a bit smaller. I'm now just going to paint round this top of the tower here, and it will have the effect of lightening it a bit where it's been overly darkened by the adjustments we made to the misty bit of the image. So subtle, so almost imperceptible, but again, it's this kind of attention to detail that will really have an impact. At this stage, I now would say I'd look at this image and creatively I'm happy with it. It's just going to need a bit of attention here with these horrible bits of grass and stuff poking in the bottom of the frame. So I could paint out these bits of twigs down the bottom right here with the content aware healing brush, but a possibly quicker way and just as good would be to use content aware fill. So again, I'm going to use the Lasso tool here, but first of all I'm going to flatten the image. Okay, layer, flatten image, and now if I select just around where the brushes are impinging on the image here, and what I'm going to do is I'll have an action. It's called expand and fill, which expands the selection by 1 pixel and then uses content aware fill to actually do it. So that's an action I've recorded before, so if I just play that now, let's see what sort of a job it does. And it's pretty good, isn't it? It's like magic. The amount of time it saves is incredible, really. So let's just zoom in and see what we've got here. Take the layers out of the way for the moment, come down to the area of the image in question, and really, there's one little bit down there that's still sticking in, so that's a job for content aware. Healing brush, use the brackets, square brackets, to adjust my brush size and just take that out, and it's history. Zoom out on the picture. Wendy will now take this image and look at it 100%, checking for any other bits, dust on the sensor or anything that's annoying. There are things down here that I find a little bit distracting, such as this road sign down there. She'll probably take that out, but I think you get the gist of it, and really that's using again the photo merge capability in Lightroom to really help us with these high contrast lighting situations. I'm pleased with that picture, and so we're going to carry on next month with more fundamentals of post-production video tutorials. Thank you. Hope you're enjoying your F11 membership. Please do send us your requests, your suggestions and your input. See you next month.